continent is challenged by issues of leadership, democracy, and development. But many countries on the continent are bracing the odds to chart a new course of prosperity for their citizens. On this program, Africa Weekly, we shall be bringing you stories from across the continent, which gives hope of a brighter future. Now, this week, our main focus is on how some African countries are leveraging on their diaspora resource to bring development to their country, with Nigeria and Togo showing the way. And we have a guest to give insight into this development. We will also bring trending stories around the continent, starting from the home front. I am Joyce Akogun, welcoming you to Africa Weekly. Diaspora resource offers huge potential for many African countries to speed up development, either in human capacity or revenue repatriation. Nigeria, for instance, is advancing her diaspora policy, which is already bearing fruits. The success story in Nigeria is now resonating in other African countries, as Togo has established a diaspora center to coordinate her diaspora activities. We now bring you latest efforts from the two countries in this regard.
It's a Diaspora lecture series. Here, critical issues affecting Nigerians living abroad are addressed. The forum provides opportunity for Nigerians, both at home and in diaspora, to be well informed about the plans of government of Nigeria for her diaspora community through NIDCOM.
We're hoping that through this discourse we'll challenge our intellect, our minds, and our hearts as discussants on this platform with all of you participants from the diaspora from all over the world. And we hope that we'll also be able to connect you, Nigerians in the diaspora, with opportunities that are bound back home in Nigeria as we have this constant and continuous conversation.
Another topical issue of concern raised by the guest speakers, Nigerian Minister of Interior, Ogbeni Rauf Aregbesola, and the Minister of State, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Zubairu Dada, is converting the massive exodus of Nigerian professionals out of Nigeria, the brain drain to brain gain. Issuance of visas on arrival from 1st June this year, and establishment of passport issuance office in every local government of Nigeria. 8 strategies were also identified for diaspora mobilization: diaspora policy, diaspora voting, National Diaspora Day, amongst others.
And we value them as real catalysts for economic development of our country. We also value their contributions, the contributions of the diaspora in such countries as Israel, India, and Philippines, to mention but a few.
We have recently reviewed the passport issuing process with a view to streamlining the process for better performance while also eliminating the activities of touts.
Global contributors were given opportunity to air their views via webinar on both issues of Nigeria and issues affecting diasporans in their various host communities.
We need the Nigerian embassies to be involved in collecting the NIN for Nigerians.
That is what Nigerians are facing. Threats to their job, harassment, because without a valid residence card, you're automatically deported.
31 states, diaspora focal point officers, and the FCT participated to ensure issues of diaspora are brought to subnational level with over 100 diasporans from across the globe.
In the studio with me is Idon Akogun, a Nigerian diasporan and an expert in e-education, to look at this development. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Now, give us your impression on the Diaspora Resource Utilization Initiative in Africa, with emphasis on education.
So much. I have a program tagged the Electronic Education Initiative, and since 2010, we've been trying to develop a program that creates linkages with universities and institutions of learning across the developed countries with developing countries. So, of course, that would be Africa with countries across the world, Africa being a developing world, and South America and so on. So specifically speaking to your question, the diasporan residents in Africa, living in the United States, countries in Europe, for example. I will speak specifically to Nigeria, for example. We have organizations like NIDCOM who are trying their best to see how they can target Nigerians in diaspora in Europe and the United States to bring them closer to Nigeria. I have been working closely with the organization to see how we can get our experts, professionals, and faculty to target our institutions and link them here. And one way of doing that is through our institutions.
Right.
The best way to do that, I think, is through technology. Video conferencing is one way to do that. That way, live from the faculty, from the schools abroad, we can reach Ahmadu Bello, reach University of Lagos, reach University of Benin, reach Auchi Polytechnic or Edo State Polytechnic. Whichever school you are, your faculty can go straight into the world and the world into your classroom. Now, we have faculties across the world, like, for example, Dr. Franca Obuekwena, who is a professor of geoscience in the University of Missouri, Science and Technology, Professor Felix Edoho, and of course, Albert Ayene. I have to call them out because I work with them personally. So, of course, he's a faculty in Rutgers University, and he's a very wonderful friend of mine who is doing wonderful work in New Jersey. Now, all these diasporans are doing wonderful things across the United States, across the world, who we're very proud of. We want them to do more in bringing their wealth of knowledge into the classroom to develop our, of course, human capacity of students to the future of learning in Nigeria.
Right, so technology is key in developing human capacity, you said.
That's right.
Right, so going forward, what should African countries be looking at in harnessing their diaspora resource?
Now, African countries should be looking at developing as much as they can back to technology. I think that for you to move forward, you should look at not just to what was done, but what you can do. If we don't look towards multimedia and how we can move forward to harnessing closer to what the world is doing, we're going to be left behind.
Right.
Technology is the way forward. ICT, mixing towards surpassing what the developed world is doing. Don't just try and target what your neighbors are doing within Africa. Surpass the United States, surpass China. So many countries are moving their people to countries like China, and then your people are going to, like our students are now going to countries like the United States, but they're not coming back. It's a brain drain. Right. We need to find a way to get our students, our diasporans who are there, to develop our capacity here and let those kids develop our country from here.
Thank you so much for your wonderful insights, Mr. Idon.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This is Africa Weekly. The program returns after this break. Welcome back. Now let's take a quick look at some trending stories across the continent in our Tidbits segment. Next is the segment on Nigeria's perspective, in which we bring you major developments in Africa during the week's special focus on how they relate to Nigeria. We begin with the efforts at stabilizing political situation in Chad, with Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari pledging the country's commitment to this regard when he received the head of the Transitional Military Council of Chad, Lieutenant General Muhammad Idris Deby Itno.
The Chadian transitional leader, Lieutenant General Muhammad Idris Deby Itno, is visiting Nigeria for the first time since coming to power on the 21st of last month. His father and president of the country, Marshal Idris Deby Itno, had died in the battlefield while leading troops to confront insurgents who had come in through Libya. A return to democratic order in the Republic of Chad is expected in 18 months. The transitional leader, General Muhammad Idris Deby, is here to seek ways of deepening and expanding existing relations between Nigeria and Chad in the fight against insecurity and other critical economic sectors. As President Muhammadu Buhari told the visiting leader behind closed doors, we are bound together by culture and geography, and we will help in all ways we can. Chad should not hesitate to ask for help in areas it deemed necessary. Foreign Affairs Minister Geoffrey Onyema was at a high-level engagement.
Mr. President assured him of Nigeria's support. He expressed condolences at the passing of the Marshal. How grateful we are as a country and him personally with the role that Chad and under the Marshal have played in supporting Nigeria in the fight against terrorism, that a lot of the gains that have been made was really because of Chad's very strong support together also with Niger. And, he said that there are two big institutions that are based in Chad. There's the Lake Chad Basin Commission, and there's also the Multinational Joint Task Force. And that Nigeria will, over the next 18 months, continue to strengthen those two institutions, because in strengthening those two institutions is also helping the government of Chad and strengthening Chad.
Lieutenant General Muhammad Idris Deby, who explained to President Muhammadu Buhari circumstances surrounding his coming to power, thanked Nigeria for the solidarity shown after the passage of the former president. The main objective of the Transitional Military Council, he said, is national security and cohesion, as further explained by Geoffrey Onyema.
Well, he briefed Mr. President on the roadmap in Chad, how they came about this succession, and he explained that they've appointed as Prime Minister the leader of the opposition who came second in the elections, and that he has been charged with now organizing free, fair, democratic elections. The most important thing is that we do not have a vacuum in Chad, and that Chad will continue to play a very strong and important role with the side of Nigeria and the other multinational joint forces countries in the battle against terrorism. So that cooperation, I think, is we're now assured that it will continue, and that we need not worry about a political or power vacuum in Chad.
During the visit, the Chadian leader said the Transitional Council is committed to democratic, free and fair polls in 18 months. He assured President Buhari, whom he acknowledged to be very close to his father, that they are ready to be guided by him and indeed Nigeria in their journey to constitutional order.
On the economic front, we examine the ties between Nigeria and Tanzania dating back to the 60s, with the two countries working within the framework of the African Union to develop and promote trade, investment and tourism. 61 years on, the bilateral relations between the two countries have continued to wax stronger. Let's join Charles Alpha to tell us how the two countries are leveraging on their huge natural resources and the opportunities the African continental free trade present to foster their relationship.
Tanzania's land of Kilimanjaro, the Serengeti, Ngorongoro, and Zanzibar are some of Tanzania's tourist sites, contributing about 16% of the country's GDP and nearly 25% of the total export earnings. Nigeria, on the other hand, boasts of oil and gas industries and abundant arable land for agriculture. This is aside its own tourist sites such as the Yankari Game Reserve, Obudukatu Ranch, Ikogosi Warm Spring, The Confluence, Tinapa Resort, Olumorok, and many more. Nigeria's oil alone contributes about 65% to government revenue and 88% of Nigeria's foreign exchange earnings, with indigenous companies in some African countries like Tanzania. Nigeria and Tanzania's abundant resources present large markets to the African continent and the world, and realizing their full potentials require economic and political diplomacy for the survival of both economies in the challenging times. The African Continental Free Trade Area commenced trading on the 1st of January this year with African Union heads of state and governments, Tanzania and Nigeria inclusive, underscoring the urgent need for members to key in. The commencement has been adjudged to be one of the most significant milestones on the continent after the 55 sovereign AU member states rallied to ensure the kickoff. In view of these opportunities, the United Republic of Tanzania intimated key players and journalists with its plans towards the realization of the AfCFTA agreement. The forum tagged Nigeria-Tanzania Tourism, Investment and Trade Forum. It was held in Abuja and Lagos. Tanzania High Commissioner to Nigeria, Ambassador Benson Bana, believed the event would increase the number of tourists from Nigeria to Tanzania from 6 to 12,000 and the volume of Tanzania's goods and services into the Nigerian market from an average of 13,641 tons per year to 15,000 by December 2022.
International engagements are indeed contemporary diplomatic relations are leaning more on economic and cultural diplomacy rather than traditional political diplomacy.
A historic African Continental Free Trade Agreement presents an opportunity for greater economic interactions between our two countries.
Business experts were of the opinion that the gradual evolution of the two countries' economies, which has been as a result of their diplomatic and economic relations over the years, now requires new ideas and strategies to stay afloat. African Continental Free Trade Area offers lots of benefits to member states, particularly those with competitive advantage and enabling infrastructures. Its objective is to eliminate or reduce tariff and non-tariff barriers amongst the 54 countries that agreed to be members of the bloc by providing a single market for goods and services.
African countries will, for the first time, be able to trade amongst themselves much more effectively, competitively, but at the same time reaping the benefits.
54 AU member states have signed the AfCFTA, with the exception of Eritrea, while Djibouti, Ethiopia, Kenya, Rwanda, and Uganda have all begun to reduce their tariffs, starting with a linear reduction on 90% of tariff lines as a step towards fast-tracking the implementation.
From Nigeria, we take you straight to Uganda, where Yoweri Museveni has been sworn in for a 6th term in office as president of Uganda, making him the country's longest-serving president since 1986. At least 10 African heads of state and leaders of government, including President Muhammadu Buhari, who was represented by his vice Yemi Osinbajo, witnessed the swearing-in. What then is the re-elected president's agenda for Uganda over the coming years? Let's find out.
President Yoweri Museveni was declared winner of the election held on January 14 this year after receiving 58% of the vote, while his closest rival, Bobi Wine, garnered 35%. Museveni, who won re-election, took oath of office on Wednesday at a ceremony in the capital, Kampala. The swearing-in ceremony was attended by 4,000 invited guests, including 11 heads of state, diplomats, local politicians, and foreign dignitaries.
Swear in the name of the Almighty God that I will be faithful and bear the true allegiance to the Republic of Uganda, and that I will preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution. So help me God.
Wearing a dark blue suit and his trademark wide-brimmed hat, Museveni promised to pay true allegiance to the country he has ruled non-stop since taking power in 1986. He emphasized that his government is Pan-Africanism, all about security of Ugandans and larger markets for its economy. The integration of Africa, he said, will lead to economic success, urging the countries to unite against foreign enemies. His government, Museveni emphasized, will concentrate on expanding internal markets of Uganda, the development of human resources through education and improved health, while consolidating on inclusiveness.
With the rise of the literacy rate from 43% in 1986 to now 76.5%, we can achieve much higher, much faster rates of growth, and I will see to that.
Nigeria's Vice President Yemi Osinbajo represented President Muhammadu Buhari. He congratulated President Yoweri Museveni on his sixth term as President of Uganda and for the dividends of democracy to Ugandans over the years. He promised renewed commitment against insurgency and believed Yoweri knows the needs of his people and will do well to consolidate on his past achievements. Museveni was first sworn in as President of Uganda in 1986 and is now expected to head Uganda until 2025.
That is where we draw the curtain on this week's edition of Africa Weekly. I am Joyce Akogun, thanking you for your time.